So excited to talk to you. How are you?
I'm good, Stephanie. I'm really good.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on the show to talk about clutter blocks. Before we get there, tell us who you are, what you do, and if you have a story that exemplifies how you found yourself so passionate about decluttering that you made it your life's work, give us that as well.
Oh, excellent. So my name is Tracy McCubbin. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Declutter. We're an organizing and decluttering company based in Los Angeles. I have been professionally decluttering for 15 years. I have a team of 10. We travel all over the country, and our focus is to help people with the physical side and decision making side of letting go things in their life that don't serve them anymore. So we really not only do the work, the hard work, the schlepping, but we also look at the emotional and the decision making process. And I think, I sort of sneakily became a professional organizer. I grew up, I'm the child of a hoarder. My father is an extreme hoarder, and I had watched my whole life him really struggle still to this day with his stuff and how it got in the way of every relationship in his life, including us, my brother and I. And so I was working as an assistant and for somebody, and kind of on the weekends, people he knew would like, oh, can you come over? I know you helped your grandma with her estate, and I have these papers, and or can you help me? And so I was helping, and sometimes charging, and sometimes not charging, and really early on, I just felt a knack for it. Like I really could have a conversation with people, and I really understood the hold that people's stuff had on them. And the more they accumulated, there was no direct correlation between the more stuff and the happier they were. And I sort of saw through that. And a friend of mine was like, I think this is a business. I'm like, what? I'm just helping. This is the thing I do. And then the phone started ringing, or technically my pager started going off. And it just snapped. I just, created a website and hung a little shingle out on the internet, and it's been 15 years and it's been amazing. And I think the moment that crystallized for me is one of my earliest clients. We decluttered her whole apartment, and she called me afterwards and she said, I just have to tell you, for the first time in 10 years, I had a friend call me and say they were around the corner. And instead of meeting them out, I could have them in my apartment. And it was such an immediate, like she said, I've been too embarrassed to have someone in my home, and I can do it now. And like, that's what crystallized for me. Like, that's what this is all about. I want you to be able to have friends over, and I want you to be happy in your home. And that was really like, all of a sudden I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you've come to understand the fact that stuff has a hold on people. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about your concept of clutter blocks. You have 7 of them. We're going to do our best to get to all of them today. Let's start there. What on earth is a clutter block?
So, after years of working with clients, I realized that all of us humans, and specifically, when I talk about it, I talk about people in the United States because that's the bulk of my clients. We all tell these same stories about why we can't let go of the stuff that we don't want, need, or use anymore. It was like I just kept hearing these same things, and I'm like, this is a block. Like, we've created this narrative about our stuff, and we can't let go. And people are telling the same seven, same seven stories over and over again. And so it felt really, it just was really empowering. It was really empowering to name them and to say to people like this, look, you're not alone. Your story isn't unique. We all do this. And it sort of became an excuse. So I, started to talk about them. I started to speak on them, and it resonated with people. And the first step was I discovered my own clutter block. And I was like, oh, this is mine. And from there, it just really gives people an insight that that it's like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this is like, I'm not just messy. I'm not just a bad housekeeper, that there's this huge emotional component to it. And, as you know, stuff comes to us with no meaning, right? No meaning. It's just a thing. And we dump all the meaning on it. We give it all the meaning in the world. And so we have the ability to take the meaning away or reframe the meaning. And so that's what these clutter blocks are. It's a way of understanding why you're doing what you're doing, why you're not letting go. So it's really it's just been great. It's been so helpful for people. And I think the interesting thing, and I say this as a child of a hoarder, I think there's this in between land of people who are cluttered but don't have hoarding disorder. And they were like, I'm not a hoarder. Like, I'm, taking the test. I'm not a hoarder, but I can't let go of this stuff. So it was like this in between world that I was like, well, here's why, because you're emotionally attached, you're blocked.
You mentioned there that you understood your own clutter block as a step to understanding all seven. So let's start with your clutter block. What is yours? And what is your clutter block? Explain it to us.
Sure. So my clutter block is clutter block number 3, avoiding my stuff, which is I don't open my mail as often as I should. I let things that are, pile up. I don't do my filing. I don't like to look at voicemails. I don't like, I avoid, I avoid the business of being a grown up. And so it creates all this paper clutter. Like, and I don't schedule in. I mean, I always say there's admin of being an adult, right? There's your business and there's all that, but being an adult, you have administrative stuff. You got to pay your bills. You got to, and it's the thing. I was like, I just can't. And it comes from growing up the way that I did, and that money was tight, and money, sometimes there was a lot and sometimes there was no. And so I don't want to open bills, and because I'm like, I can't, it's just so, you know, I had gotten myself in very bad debt years ago, and it was like I just didn't want to know that it was there instead of facing it. And so paper is my thing. It's my thing.
I mean, paper's the thing for a lot of people. There is one person in my life, the bills, the mail just pile up for months and months and months because the stress that's associated with opening it is greater than the anxiety associated with leaving it on the corner and staring at it every day. What is step one for avoiders? What do you suggest as step one to your clients who have that tendency to avoid?
I think the first step is to acknowledge that it doesn't get better by ignoring it. There's no problem that gets better by ignoring it. And that problem is still there and it's going to get worse. And there was a thing on Twitter, I don't know, a couple months ago, where all these people were saying, like, they were just talking about like something they'd put off for 6 months, a year, and then how long it actually took them to do it. So I always tell my clutter block number 3 people, like, pick a bill you have to pay, or pick the thing that you've been avoiding and putting off, and see how long it actually takes you to do it and resolve it. And most of the time it's like, oh yeah, I made that phone call I didn't want to make, and it was 6 minutes and it's all cleaned up. So start with something, and also acknowledge how much better you feel, because even though you're avoiding it, and I can say it because I do it, it's always in the back of your head. You're not, it's there, right? The interest is racking up. That the lawyer's written. And so, why do you want to declutter? And when it's avoiding this stuff, it usually comes back to money, issues. And so, sometimes people have to do a little bit of work on that. Sometimes people have to do a lot. But after you do, we always think we need to be brave to do the hard thing. And it's like, well, that's what you actually get after you do it. You have to do it to earn the courage. So I always say pick one and see how good it feels to get it done.
Well, we started with your clutter block, so why don't we continue with mine? I should say that on your website, listeners, you can take a free quiz to find out what your clutter block is. And so I took your quiz, Tracy, and my clutter block is um, I forgot the exact phrase, but basically the one which says that I'm not worth my good stuff. And I first of all, when I read this, I was shocked because I didn't think that sounded like me. But the more I thought about it, that is so me. Like I have nice pants, but I wear my ratty tatty yoga pants every single day. You can't see right now, Tracy, but I'm wearing my ratty tatty sweatpants right now. So, for people like me whose clutter block is the fact that they don't feel worthy of using their good stuff, talk to me about that. What can we do? How can we remedy this?
Oh, this is one of my favorite ones to work with people on. It's clutter block number 5. I'm not worth my good stuff. And, I have so many. I just helped clean out a house of women family. The parents had passed away in their 90s, and the grown kids, we do a lot of decluttering estates after people passed. And I found wedding gifts that they had never opened. When you think like, they're married for 50 years, like they never used that. And so it's really like acknowledging like there's may not be a tomorrow, maybe not. And today is special. Like today, burn the fancy candle, use the nice lotion, wear the nice blouse, eat pizza off of your china. Like why have it if you're not going to use it? And why and turn it into a celebration of you. Turn it into a celebration of you. And look, there may be a world where you're like, I like to wear my ratty yoga pants. Like, I don't really like to wear fancy trousers. So sometimes in this clutter block, we find out that it's sort of a reshifting of like, I don't want to, I like this, and accepting ourselves. But I think if you're going to have, I don't think I know. If you have nice stuff, celebrate you. Celebrate today. I mean, after what we've been through for the last couple of years, celebrate. Enjoy it. Do it. Eat off the nice china. Burn the candles. Do it. And people call me all the time. And I had a friend of mine who this was her clutter block, and she got married and had a kid, and had kind of put all of her really cute single dating clothes to the back of her closet, and was being a mom and all that. And she just one day, she said she walked past a storefront in Brooklyn, and she looked at herself, she was like, oh man, like ratty sweater, and just felt awful. And she was like exhausted, and Cheerios in her hair, and she thought, oh, next time, she's like, she just grabbed a nicer sweater, and she just said, I was like, it put a little pep in my step. Like I started getting dressed up for me, not to go on a date and impress somebody, but for me, and felt great about it. So I think I don't know, I think we push it down the road, and we kind of wait for the perfect time, and there's no perfection. There's just today.
Yes. If we're constantly waiting for that one day to use the fine china or the crystal or wear the nice dress, we might very well be disappointed because life is happening right now. If it's important enough to keep around, to keep maintaining, to keep housing in your home, then it's worth wearing or using now. I had a guest on the show one time. She said that every Tuesday night is dinner on the fine china night, and the kids love it because they feel special and loved and important. And she loves it because she has a set of, I don't know, 18 fancy dishes that she uses once a year, if that. And so the dishes are getting used, the kids feel special. It's a win win. So now we're on to what I think is likely the most common clutter block. And I'll be honest, it's a tie between numbers 1 and 6. But let's go with number 1, which I think is essentially the sentimental clutter. The clutter block being my stuff keeps me in the past. Is this the most popular that you or the most common that you've seen? And if so, how do you help your clients work through this clutter block?
You are so right. Number 1 and number 6 are neck and neck, especially with the sandwich generation. Like I'm seeing both of these with people who have kids and aging parents. I'm like, they're right in the middle. These are great ones. Clutter block number 1, my stuff keeps me stuck in the past. That it's just fascinating, and it's really this based in this idea. So it's hanging on to things, trophies and every piece of art your kid made. And I had somebody DM me on Instagram to say, I give these 5 minute, 5 minutes decluttering challenges on Instagram. They're great. 3 a week, everybody hop on. They're super things you can declutter in 5 minutes. And I put up magazines because I knew, and somebody DM'd me that they had bridal magazines that had the 2 dresses that they didn't end up buying, but they couldn't let go of. I was like, wait, what? you wore a different dress. She was like, well, they were the ones I really wanted, but I didn't get them and I can't, and it was such a stuck in the past, and this one can be about regret. This one can be about, and the messaging behind this one is really telling you that your best days are behind you. I was the football star. This is a big one of clothes you don't fit into anymore. Right? I'm 57. My body has changed. Gravity has hit. There are things that I will never be able to wear again. But you know what? I'm 57 and I'm still here. And instead it's like I can't wear that. It just doesn't look good. I luckily have a 22-year-old niece who's getting lots of my vintage. But I think it's also helping people understand that when you keep so much of the past, none of it means anything anymore. If you have every piece of paper every piece of art your kid made, every homework assignment, then it just becomes boxes and boxes of old paper. But if you have one box of the autobiography they wrote about themselves and their first self-portrait and some really amazing things that will delight you to look at it when they're grown up, that means something. But if you have every math test, if you have every spelling test, it just takes away the value. So I think, for this clutter block, that's sort of the stuff that we unpack. Why are you hanging on to it? And a lot of times, this one, my stuff keeps me in the past. It really does get my moms. The moms are really about this. And, it's hard. Your kids grow up, but holding on to that stuff doesn't keep them this, little anymore.
It's the saying that one of my guests, Rose Lounsbury, came on the show and offered up: if everything's a favorite, then nothing's a favorite, right? You have to distinguish the truly special items from all the minutia. And you do that by letting go of the minutia so that the best stuff, the favorite stuff, the most sentimental, heart warming stuff can naturally rise to the top and get all of the attention. Let's move on to your clutter block that I need help with because I'm confused. And that that is clutter block number 2. My stuff tells me who I am. What does this mean?
So this is people who, this is my shoppers. These are people who are like, oh my God, I got this on sale. I'm so frugal, that their identity is in consuming, that it's either super high end and it has to have a label on it. It has to have a logo on it. It has to be, designer, or it's the same, different side of the same coin. Like, I got this on sale and I'm so, this is who I am. I'm a shopper and I'm a bargain hunter. And, I always find with people this, it's almost always about loneliness. This one's almost always about loneliness. Years ago, a friend of mine said to me, she was a smoker back then, and she said, the thing about being a smoker is I'm never lonely because I'm never at home by myself on a Saturday night. I'm actually having a cigarette and sitting on my balcony. I'm never awkward at a party. I can go have a cigarette. That the cigarette was an activity to not have to face how she was feeling. And I feel like that this is what this is, that it's like, I'm always busy because I bought a bunch of stuff and now I have to return it and I have to try it on. And, it's really filling an empty hole. It's really filling an empty hole. And the flip side of that too is that it has to look, I not collect, but I have a few beautiful vintage Gucci purses. I love them. They're beautifully well designed. They're pieces of art. I carry them. I love them. But, I go into people's house where they have every pair of Gucci shoes ever made. They have every, and like your guest said, if everything's the favorite, nothing's the favorite.
Yeah. I was just going to say there that I wonder if part of the moving on, dare I say, healing process, if anybody listening feels like number two, my stuff tells me who I am, resonates with them. I wonder if part of moving on from that clutter block is to first address the loneliness. What do you think about that?
100%. I believe one of the keys to clutter is that we're lacking in human connection. And you brought it up, and I'll just jump to it, but clutter block number 6 is trapped with other people's stuff. And at the base level, this is grown kids have been moved out of the house and you have all their stuff, but what this one's really about is stuff from people who have passed away. That you have a garage full of old furniture, and you have everything, you have every lipstick your mother had ever worn. And what I always tell people is, you don't want the stuff, you want to stay connected to the person who's gone. So you think as long as you keep the stuff, the connection's still there. And what I say is, the connection's there. The connection's there. That person is in your heart, and it's grief, and you may never get over it. But I think all the stuff actually keeps you trapped. I think keeping everything, I had a woman tell me at a book signing one time that she was very emotional about it. She'd lost her mother. They were clearly very close. And she said she has on her dresser, when she gets dressed every morning, she has everything that was on the nightstand when her mother passed away. So it was the medicine and the, all the pens and like all this stuff. And it was, she was in the room when she passed, and it was obviously harrowing. And she just said, I just can't let it go. And but every night it's like she relived the experience every night when she looked at that stuff again. She's like, I feel like, and people have said this so many times to me, I feel like when I'm letting go of their stuff, I'm killing them all over again, or I'm losing them all over again. And so what I always encourage people with this one is, again, that's such a great, I've never heard that, but if everything's a favorite, nothing's a favorite. If you have everything of this person that passed away, it ceases to be special. So, get it down, like your favorite picture of the two of you together. The thing that when you look at it, it reminds you of the best days with them. That it doesn't make it easier, but you're not stuck or trapped wallowing in the pain of losing them.
I am by no means an expert on the human condition, and I am still trying to figure it out like everybody else. But I do believe that every single human being on this planet, we're all united in the fact that we all want to be heard and loved, and we want to feel a sense of connection. And I do feel, in my capacity as the host of this podcast, getting to talk to amazing, wonderful people like you, that a lot of times we tend to use stuff as a stand in, perhaps, for that connection, that love that we're searching for. Do you find that in your capacity as a professional organizer who's helped thousands of people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And and a lot of times, clutter block number 6 people, it can just as easily be you lost someone you love dearly, but a lot of times it's lost someone that you've had a very difficult relationship with, that you're hanging on because you haven't healed that, or you haven't, it's still there, and you're still living it and trying to work through. And maybe your mother didn't show up for you in the way, and it's this kind of, I don't like to say the word broken, but something unhealed inside of you. And Oprah has that, I'm going to paraphrase it and not get it right, but Oprah has that amazing quote where she says, forgiveness is accepting that you can't change the events of the past, but that you can move forward, that the future can be different. And I think we use stuff for all those reasons, right? To fill those holes and to avoid. And literally, I would say this: people have the stuff to stuff their feelings, right? To create a wall. And it's just, we want to be connected. And so and again, I love that you say that. I am by no means an expert in the human condition. I'm blundering my way through it too. But we do these things, drink too much, eat too much, buy too much stuff. And the simple things are right there. What your grandma told you, take a walk, get some exercise, be of service, do something for somebody else. You want to feel good about yourself, you want to feel like you're contributing, do something for someone else. Have a gratitude practice, count your blessings, that, like, have connection, call a friend, take a walk with them. Like, those really simple things that we've always been told are it. Because the thing, it's not gonna, you're gonna get that beautiful dress home and then it's gonna hang in your closet and it's gonna lose all its magic. It's never gonna look as beautiful as it did hanging in the store window. And then that feeling's gonna go away and you're like, I'm gonna need it again. And so you buy more, and then, the feeling it doesn't last as long.
Yeah, your answer there makes me think about something I've been working on in my very, very personal life, my inner life, with regard to short term band aids and long term solutions, right? Like buying the thing or drinking the wine or eating the extra dessert or whatever we do in the short term to feel better. It's really just a band-aid for it's a band-aid, but it's also kicking the can down the road a bit to delay the bigger, the harder work. And so, we were talking about clutter blocks and now we're talking about the human condition. But for anybody listening who has that tendency to use stuff or to use alcohol or to use food or whatever the thing is, shopping, whatever it is, as a substitute for that true human connection and that unconditional love that we're all seeking for, my my words of encouragement for you would be, even though it's scary to do the hard work, to do the big work, uh, just take one step in that direction. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for this conversation. We're talking about true connection, and I feel as though I have it with you. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. It was great. I'm so excited to connect with you and your listeners.